Well, the King's coronation will be held on May 6 in London in a little over a month and will cost an estimated £100 million, more than twice what his mother Charles's mother Elizabeth's cost in 1953. It will be more complicated too. Elizabeth wasn't burdened with the dilemma of where to put people like Prince Andrew, whose liaison with the appalling Jeffrey Epstein has made him about as popular in Britain as Dan Andrews at a Chinese Uyghur concentration camp. King Charles also has the headache of what to do with his wayward son, Harry, and his charming wife, Meghan Markle, whose acceptance of an invitation comes with a list of conditions that may or may not include a guarantee to join the family on the balcony at Buckingham Palace afterwards in a show of unity that will fool nobody. But that is not the facade we are here to discuss tonight. Whatever role Harry and Meghan play in the coronation doesn't affect us, but the way Charles approaches the throne does. And already Charles is approaching it in a way that should alarm monarchists and will probably delight Republicans. He had been king for less than 2 months before he hosted a function at Buckingham Palace for 200 environmentalists, including, of course, fashion designer Stella McCartney, daughter of Sir Paul McCartney, who, of course, is himself pop royalty. Some of those guests were on their way to the COP27 climate crisis meeting in Egypt and had diverted their private jets to Heathrow to pop in and get whatever instructions were on offer from Charles at the palace. The idea of these elites flying around the world attending royal functions at palaces makes as much sense as Victorian Premier Dan Andrews lecturing Australians about human rights from a visit to China hosted by the tyrannical CCP. Does Charles himself have tyrannical tendencies? He is, after all, the founder of a group called the Sustainable Markets Initiative, whose goal is to encourage multinational corporations to implement, quote, practical action to help the private sector accelerate their progress towards a sustainable future, unquote. Well, that's a euphemism for a more expensive future for the likes of you and I. Here he is explaining why this is so important.
We've forgotten sometimes, I think, that we are part of nature. So what we do to the world around us, we are doing totally to ourselves. We can't go on, I think, equivocating on this and just expect us to test the world ultimately to destruction before you can prove that you have destroyed it. It is climate change. That's pointless to me. There is life after apparent death from the current conventional approach.
Pretty dramatic stuff. One doesn't relinquish these ideas just because one has acceded to the throne of the United Kingdom. Will Charles become an interventionist monarch, insisting his subjects comply with measures imposed by his friends in the political and corporate worlds to save the planet?